The Tyler Girls is a robotic performance. It's made of 12 small autonomous robots. They were developed by people in artificial intelligence. And the Tyler Girls actually were a famous dance group from the earlier 20th century. They were famous for their line dancing and their highly synchronous movement. In this case, not so synchronized, but vaguely interpreted on what used to be made by flesh, now made by steel and electronics. The technical element of the Tyler Girls, or let's say all the constituents that made the shows together. First, there's the robots. They are 12 small autonomous robots. They are autonomous. It means that they have batteries, they have a wireless communication, Bluetooth, same thing as you have on your mobile phone. So there's a computer who talks to the robot and basically tells them to move in a certain ways. The robots can actually do a very, very minimal amount of movement, but it still produces a large area of expressive content or expressive movement. They basically can just move their waist and move their shoulders, but there's enough within these two elements that they can go forward, backward, look a bit more frantic, look a bit more quiet, and so forth. They were made to study movement in artificial intelligence, study gaits and things like this. So we start from the robots, then there's actually during the performance 3-person improvising during the whole show. It's not sequenced, it's not like we push a button and then all the sounds and the light are pre-programmed. So what we do, we start from a minimum amount of phrases of movement and then we really groove and try to make as much as people will improvise in music. We just improvise with the robots and the sound and the lights. So what happened is from the choreographies or from the robot movement, this is sent to somebody who's responsible for the video and the light movement, and the other person responsible for making the whole sound design. So we all share the same information and it's all interpreted in their own way. So at the end what happens is when you see the robot move, it's almost like if you almost see the music in a synchronous way. So if you hear some kind of grooves, you will figure out which robot is playing the drum and this robot is doing this kind of melody and so forth, of course in a very abstract manner. The root of the project is, as I've been doing for, let's say, the last 15 years, robotic shows and performances, sometimes with humans, sometimes only with machines. Actually, I did much larger scale performances only made of robots. What happened is about 2 years ago I visited the artificial intelligence lab in Zurich, and I saw these robots that had nothing to do with the show. They were just on a table in a lab and with wires dangling, and I really liked the quality of the movement. And I approached them and I said, well, I just want to use a lot of those and I want to make a show out of this. At this stage there was no idea about putting the Tyler Girls into this. I was just interested to have an ensemble of robots performing, in this case dancing, on the stage. A little bit later I started reading about performance theory and robotic use for the stage, and there's actually quite a lot of writing about the Tyler Girls, because the Tyler Girls, they represent some kind of a paradox for performance. The Tyler Girls, they were not called upon to perform because they have any interpretative skills. Actually, they're not interested in these qualities. They're interested in the machinery aspect of the dancers. So if you ever see documentary footage about this, you will have probably 20 dancers dancing in quite a synchronous way, making all kinds of patterns and so forth. So basically the ensemble was the important result, not the person itself. So they totally subsume. So what happened in this case, you have a robot which should be in theory highly synchronized and highly perfect. But these robots are not made as the conception that we have. These are made, they move because they interact with the environment. They're balancing all the time, so they always all a bit different. So even if they machine, they yet have interpretive quality part of it, so it's kind of playing with the paradox, and just they have the whole ensemble, and of course being able to reflect on the whole Tyler Girls and doing it with the robots. So this is kind of at the same time a play of words, and also to just trigger, let's say, narrative structures or some kind of structure for the people. If you say I'm doing a performance, people are always expecting certain setup, beginning and end, dramatic moment and so forth. So we basically we don't deconstruct it totally, but we still play with all these vocabularies, but we kind of like shuffle them together. We try to break our own code because the three of us come from a theater background, so it's kind of like a play on word and theater as well at the same time. So the lighting are made to be erratic at the same time in the movement. The choreographies are always a bit broken and so forth, but yet it's still a show that we still want to keep the attention for, like the 30 minutes of the duration. So in the group with me, there's the sound designer is Philippe Schulze, and the video and the lighting designer is Amin Purkabek. They were both working with me in Singapore for a year. They were part of my research lab. We did a lot of interactive artwork, but also we did a lot of like robotics. So I got them involved at the end of their stay in Singapore to say, let's have fun and start improvising with these small robots. In my case, like I mentioned at the beginning, I've been doing robotics since 1990. Been involved like from installation to something more for the stage. So robotic pieces were involved for musicals. I did things for operas, as well like robots on their own. Let's say like huge environments. Always mixing, of course, light, videos, and robotic movement. Currently I'm teaching at an art school in Singapore. Sometimes I teach robotics. A lot of time I teach more like interactive art. I also like get involved with like exhibit design and everything surrounding probably space and movement, to sum it up.